The train should have never arrived. It was 12:04 a.m. The station was empty, silent. Even the rats had stopped moving. My phone was dead. The sky above the tracks looked too heavy, like it would fall and crush the world. Then the train came without a sound. No headlights, no horn, just a slow slide of steel through blackness, whispering on the rails like breath on a neck. I should have walked away. I should have run. But the doors opened before I moved. Inside was warmth. Dim yellow lights. Red velvet seats. I stepped in. I was the only one breathing. The others sat too straight. Their eyes were open, wide, never blinking. Each passenger had the same black stain leaking from the corners of their eyes, like ink or oil or something older. I told myself it was a prank, some weird art show. I sat by the window. No one spoke. The train began to move again, but it didn't shake. It didn't make a sound. And I noticed something else. There were no ads, no maps, no destination screen. Just one small sign above the door. Do not look at him. I wanted to ask who him was, but then the lights flickered and the aisle filled with cold. The conductor stepped in. He wore a uniform from another century. Long coat, leather gloves, silver buttons. But where his face should have been, there was only skin. Stretched tight, smooth like wax. No eyes, no mouth, just a place where a person should be. He walked past without turning. In his hand was a punch tool and a roll of tickets made of human skin. When he stopped at me, I didn't breathe. He held out the tool. Click. It punched into the air in front of my chest, right over my heart. Then he moved on. I wanted to scream. But when I turned to the man across from me, he was smiling. His lips had been stitched at the corners. Still, he smiled. The train slowed. A station passed outside, but it wasn't a real place. The sign said, Bone Meadow. The platform was covered in people without feet, dragging themselves toward the doors. The train didn't stop. No one moved, not even me. The lights flickered again. The walls pulsed. And now, I could hear a sound beneath the floorboards. A heartbeat, not mine. I stood up. My legs didn't want to work, but I needed to get off. The next station came and went, throat hollow. Still, the doors didn't open. Then I saw it, my own reflection in the window. But it wasn't me. Its eyes were too wide. Its grin was crooked. It reached up and placed a finger to its lips, telling me to stay quiet. I blinked, and it was gone. Somewhere far ahead, a passenger began to scream. It didn't sound human. It sounded like a chair dragging through teeth. I ran, past rows of silent people, past a woman holding a baby made of hair, past a child with a face full of mouths. The conductor was waiting at the end of the carriage. He pointed to a door I hadn't seen before. On it were scratched words, "Your stop." I opened it. It was not a platform. It was a hallway made of flesh, breathing, throbbing, and it led down. I didn't want to go, but I heard something behind me, a hiss like skin peeling. So I ran into the hallway. It whispered my name with every step. When I woke, I was outside. It was morning. I stood on a normal street, but the sky was gone. Above me were teeth, huge, cracked, yellowing fangs stretching across the heavens, chomping slowly in silence. I ran home, but under my floorboards, I still hear it. The train, it's coming back for me. And next time, I don't think it will let me off. It started again 2 nights later. I heard the whistle, but it wasn't from outside. It came from the drain. A soft, low scream curling through the pipes beneath my kitchen sink. Then came the sound of metal screeching gently against metal, tracks shifting under my house. I didn't sleep. At 3:06 a.m., every window in my apartment turned black. Not dark, black, as if they'd been replaced with mirrors made of ash. And in the glass, I saw them, the passengers. All of them, pressed up against the inside, their faces melting like wax under heat. Smiles still stitched, eyes still leaking that oily ink, their hands pounding on the other side, but with no sound. Just silence, except for one. My reflection moved again. This time, it was smiling wider than before. It had no lips now, Just gums and blood and 39 perfect teeth. It waved, then pointed behind me. I turned, and my front door opened. Slowly, without a hand on it, I stepped into the hallway. I had no jacket, no shoes, but the air was warm and wet, like a lung. The walls were slick with something I couldn't see. They pulsed. The elevator had been replaced. Instead of buttons, there was a slot. One single ticket slid halfway out of it, as if waiting for me. I took it. It was damp, still beating. The elevator opened. Inside was no floor, just tracks, and the sound of the train returning, coming straight up the shaft. I closed my eyes. I told myself this wasn't happening. I told myself I never got on that first train. But when I opened my eyes again, I was seated, back in the carriage. Same red velvet seat, same stitch-lip passengers, same yellow lights, same air that smelled like old meat. Except this time, they were looking at me. All of them, heads turned slowly in unison. And through the windows, the world was gone. No more tunnel, no more city, just a sea of mirrors stretching forever, showing every possible version of me. One crying, one screaming, one with wires instead of skin, one eating itself. And in every window, behind every version of me, stood the faceless conductor, breathing, watching, waiting. The train jerked violently. Lights buzzed and popped. The smell of burning hair filled the air. One of the passengers stood up. He had no jaw, just a wet cavity where his mouth used to be, gurgling with each step. He turned to me, and in a voice like boiling glass, he said, "You stayed too long." Then he melted, right there in the aisle. His skin sliding off like butter, bones clattering across the floor, his empty eye sockets still staring until they hissed into steam. The others clapped. Their hands bled when they did. I ran. This time the carriage was endless. No doors, just seats and smiles and the sound of something huge crawling across the roof above me, its legs dragging claws. Every now and then, the lights would flicker and I'd see glimpses of it through the ceiling. A face stitched from passenger skin. Dozens of grinning mouths. Nails instead of eyes. And every time I blinked, it got closer. I found a door, carved with blood. Do not remember. I opened it. Inside was a tiny room, bare, except for a mirror. And in that mirror, me again. But this time it looked tired, hollow, like it had been here longer than me. It opened its mouth and screamed so hard the glass cracked. The word it screamed wasn't English. I didn't understand it, but my skin did. It split open at the chest. Something inside me woke up, something that shouldn't be awake. The door behind me slammed shut. I was alone, with my reflection. It smiled, then walked out of the mirror, and I took its place. I woke up in my bed. Morning. Sky above looked normal. Birds chirped. But when I looked in the mirror, I didn't blink. And when I turned my back, the mirror did. The train wasn't moving, but it wasn't stopped either. I opened my eyes to the sound of breath, not mine. Heavy, wet, and all around me. The kind of breath that fogs glass from the inside. The kind that smells like rot buried in damp cloth. The carriage was different now. Longer. Too long. It stretched into a blur of dim yellow light and red velvet seats that never seemed to end. I turned my head, and the seats behind me looked exactly the same. Same passengers. Same smiles. Same leaking eyes. But something was wrong. They weren't where they used to be. The man with the stitched lips was now 4 rows closer. The child with eyes sewn shut sat across from me now, her hands folded neatly, her fingers twitching like spider legs. I blinked. Another one moved. No sound, no breath, just closer. Every time I closed my eyes, even just for a heartbeat, they shifted, their bodies migrated, like they were creeping towards something that wasn't place, something that was me. I stood, my knees shook, the floor felt soft underfoot, not carpet but skin. It pulsed gently with each footstep, and I could feel my heartbeat sinking to it, as if the train was trying to make me part of itself. The windows outside were gone now, replaced with something darker. Not night, just a void. as if the train wasn't traveling through space, but through thought, or worse, through memory. I walked forward, but the aisle shifted like a ribcage stretching. The lights above flickered. For a moment, everything reversed. The faces looked inside out, blood on the outside of their skin, teeth where ears should be. And when the flickering stopped, they were smiling at me. All of them. A voice came over the speaker. Not words, just sounds. Wet choking, nails scratching wood. A slow laugh. Then one word, stretched and broken. Arriving. I turned toward the doors, but no station appeared. Only a long tunnel of ribbed bone, lined with screaming faces. Mouths open, but their tongues had been removed. They mouthed something to me. I couldn't read lips, but I understood. Don't get off. A shadow moved above me. The roof buckled as something crawled along it. Huge, slow, dragging claws. I looked up and saw a face pushing through the ceiling, pressed into the surface like a child under plastic. Its mouth opened wide enough to split its cheeks. It whispered, "You're late." The floor beneath my feet shifted, and I was in a new car, empty, except for one thing. A body, folded in half, backwards, arms stitched to its legs. Its mouth sewn shut with wire, bleeding rust. But it moved. It raised its head and sniffed. Then it whispered through the metal thread in its mouth, "You were supposed to die in the tunnel." My name was carved into its chest. I ran, slamming open doors, one after the other. Each carriage was worse. One was filled with sacks of hair, tied with teeth. Another had walls made of photographs, each one showing me in different stages of death. One showed me flayed open on this very seat. One showed me smiling, wearing conductor's coat. Finally, I found the front. The conductor stood waiting, still faceless. But this time, he held something in his hand. A mirror. He lifted it, and my reflection grinned. But it wasn't me. It wore my face like a mask. Underneath, it was something with no bones, just muscle and wires and 1,000 blinking black eyes. It mouthed a word I'll never forget. Trade. The conductor offered me the mirror, and I saw it, the empty seat. Mine. I refused. I ran. I flung open the emergency door, and the train screamed, a voice like metal tearing flesh. I jumped and landed, not on ground, but on the tracks, surrounded by fog. No sky, no stars, just one sign. Between stops. Behind me, the train slowed. The conductor stepped off, and he handed the mirror to my reflection. The doors closed, and the train left. But I didn't feel saved, because now I'm still on the tracks, still walking. The ground hums. Another train is coming, but this time I think I'm the passenger, and someone else will have to get off. I thought I escaped. I was wrong. 3 nights passed. I didn't sleep. Every light in my apartment buzzed like it was speaking in code. I smashed my mirrors, unplugged the TV, taped over my windows. Still I saw it, the train, reflected in water, in silver, in my own pupils. And last night, I heard the knock. It didn't come from the door. It came from under my bed. 3 slow taps, like bone on wood. I leaned down, heart hammering like war drums. From the black beneath the mattress, something slid out. Not a hand. A ticket etched into stretched gray skin. My name scratched in. But this time, beneath it, 4 words. You've been expected again. I ran down the stairwell, barefoot. My vision spun. The walls blinked at me. The numbers on the floors changed in real time. 4 became 3, then 7, then infinity. And then I wasn't in my building anymore. I was back in the station. Only now it was underground, far underground. The ceiling dripped. The tiles pulsed. Every bench was taken by a figure with no mouth, chewing silently on pieces of newspaper shaped like hearts. There were no schedules. Just one sign flashing over and over. The last train is you. The train slid in without sound. No wheels. No headlights. Just breath and hunger. Its doors opened with a shiver, not a hiss. and I stepped on. It was darker now, quieter. The lights above me hung like dead wasps, unmoving, brittle. This time, I wasn't alone. The passengers looked up when I entered. Their faces were wrong. Each one was wearing someone I knew. My childhood teacher, my dead uncle, my best friend from high school, who I hadn't spoken to since he died in a fire. All of them smiled, but the smiles weren't human. They peeled. The conductor stood at the far end of the car. His coat was longer now, touching the floor. The buttons had been replaced with eyeballs, all blinking in sequence. Still no face, just skin pulled tight like wax. But this time, when I looked at him, he tilted his head, and I felt recognition. He knew me. Somehow he always had. He lifted one hand and pointed to the back of the carriage. I turned. There, slumped in a velvet seat, was me, pale, eyes gone, lips ripped out, still breathing. And in my lap, a folder. It pulsed with something wet inside. I opened it. Inside were pages made of skin and a list, dozens of names, all crossed out, except one, mine. Beneath it, final stop, replacement. The conductor walked closer. With each step, the floor aged 100 years. Dust rose, mold bloomed, rats crumbled into bone. He stopped in front of me, his chest opened. Not like a wound, but like a door. And inside were thousands of faces, screaming, begging, pressing to meet like stamps. My face was near the center, still fresh, still blinking, still trying to speak. He reached toward me, not with a hand, but with a mirror, polished, shining, waiting. I refused. I screamed, "I won't take your place." And that was when the train howled. Everything melted. The walls, the seats, the passengers. Their bodies unraveled like yarn soaked in acid. Faces slid down torsos. Limbs twisted inward. The conductor's skin peeled back, revealing nothing but a throat of mirrors, each one holding a version of me, all crying, all crawling to escape. He stepped forward and placed a mirror against my chest. I woke up in my room, covered in blood, but not mine. The mirror was gone, but the face I saw in the bathroom was not mine either. It smiled too wide and blinked too late. Now, when I look in a reflection, the conductor is behind me. I move back into my apartment, or a place like it. It looks the same. My bed, my shelves, my face in the mirror, but something hums beneath the floorboards now. A sound no one else hears. A sound that pulses like breath, like wheels, like an engine that forgot how to stop. Every night at 3:33 a.m., the walls throb, my lights flicker, and the scent of burnt teeth and oil curls through my vents. The last train never left me. It just moved inside. I've taped crosses over every mirror. Doesn't help. Sometimes I see myself in the silver of a spoon and I'm not blinking. Sometimes I open my mouth and ash pours out. And once, I woke up with a ticket under my tongue, etched in skin, still wet. I called a priest. He walked into the apartment and froze. He turned to the window. "This isn't a home," he whispered. "This is a station." I blinked. Outside, the sky had no stars, only tracks, drawn in lightning across the black. The priest turned to speak again, but his mouth had vanished. He screamed without a sound and crumbled into a pile of train dust. I tried to leave, packed a bag, stepped out the front door, but the hallway had changed. No stairs, no neighbors, only a long stretch of red carpet and a single bench. On it sat the conductor's coat, empty, waiting. I stepped back inside, and the door vanished. The floorboards are breathing louder now. Sometimes they open just a crack, and through them I see it. The train, still running, still full, still screaming, except now, the faces in the windows are all mine. The TV turns on by itself. Static, then footage of me on the train, again and again. Sometimes I'm laughing. Sometimes I'm sewn shut. Sometimes I'm not alone. The conductor stands behind me in each one, wearing your face. I stopped sleeping. I started bleeding. My fingernails peeled off one by one, underneath smooth black rail spikes. My tongue grew stitches on its own. At night, I find footprints made of soot leading from my bed to the wall, to the floor, to the tracks beneath it. I begged for help online, typed my story, posted it everywhere. But every time I checked, the posts are blank, the pages renamed. Passenger manifest, carriage 13, and I'm the only name left. Last night, I heard the horn, louder than ever. It shook the apartment, split the tiles, bent the mirrors into grins. And then, the train rose through my floor, bursting through wood, steel reality. It hovered, suspended in smoke and wire. Inside my living room, the doors opened, and I stepped out. But I was already here, already sitting on the couch, already staring at me. The two versions of me locked eyes. And without a word, I understood. One of us was leaving. One of us would drive. We smiled, both of us, and we switched. No sound, no struggle, just a blink. Now I sit on the couch. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I forget who's real. Sometimes the whistle comes from inside my chest. And below me, always below me, the last train waits, coiled like a parasite, feeding, breathing, becoming me. So if you ever hear a train whistle at night, and you don't live near tracks, don't look out the window, don't answer the knock, don't follow the footprints, because the last train home still moves beneath this world, and it's always looking for a new conductor. And once it knows your name, you're already on board.
If you're still breathing, congratulations. You survived another tale from Majesty Horror Story. But the nightmare doesn't end here. Hit subscribe, tap that like button, and share this story, or she might pay you a visit tonight. Don't forget, they're watching who doesn't share. Sleep tight.